Hello, welcome to the What's New in App Connect Enterprise 12 talk, session 1BF. I'm Alison Lucas. Here's my email address if you want to email me any questions. I've been in IBM for about 20 years, more than 20 years now. I started off in MQ and I actually serviced the first version of Broker way back in 19 Mumble. And I moved off to Kix. Moved on to blockchain and hyperprotect containers, learning all about Docker and distributed world. And then I came to App Connect Enterprise about 2-3 years ago to look at getting it running on ZCX. And now I'm just doing general development for App Connect Enterprise. So that's me, and that's why I'm talking to you today. Please consider donating to the GSE conference raffle. Details here. Oh, and normal disclaimer, please ignore everything I say, don't rely on it, check it up in the manuals and documentation. So what am I going to cover today? Well, we're going to have a quick look at the roadmap, and then we're going to look at what is new in version 12, and then look at ZOS specific news, this being a Z conference and all. So just a quick long-term roadmap. Just to say that we've released version 12 of ACE, but it's actually called 12.0.1.0. That was the GA version, because we've gone to, instead of using fixed packs as we have done recently for version 11 and previously, we're now using mod releases instead. So the GA was, like I say, 12.0.1, and the first release, so what would have been a fixed pack, like what would have been the first fixed pack, but is actually our first mod release, is called 12.0.2. So when I talk about changes that were introduced at 12.0.2, I mean the ones that came in the first fixed pack, but it's not a fixed pack, it's a mod release. But that's what I mean. Oh yes, we've got the 5.3, 5+3 support model. So you've got 5 years support plus 3 extra. And oh yes, version 10 support service will be discontinued. A bit of news about that towards the end of the presentation. Okay, so what is new in ACE version 12? Well, I can't cover everything in this presentation, but the things I'm going to cover in the presentation are the toolkit enhancements, changes to JSON validation, all the changes we've made to enable integration testing, unit testing, getting it done more easily. I'm going to look at the new family of commands we've introduced, the IBM Int family of commands. Look at some REST API enhancements and look at some business transaction monitoring. This came in our first mod release, so the one we've just released. It wasn't in the GA product. And there will be enhancements for this ongoing, at least we hope there will. So first thing you're going to notice probably is the toolkit enhancements we've made once you've installed the product. So as it says here, we've upgraded and restyled, we've rebased on a new version of Eclipse. So things look a little different and you've got more layout options. We've also made enhancements to the flow exerciser, and there's a new message assembly editor. These last 2 points I'll come on to as I go through the demonstrations, but I'll just have a quick look at it, the toolkit, and sort of show some of the changes. So here's the toolkit, the version 12 toolkit. This is the welcome page you'll see. If you want to get more information on what's new, rather than just the bits I've put in this presentation, there's a link here. If you need to install language packs, the link to how to do it here, the choice of languages. And then there's the tutorials link here. We've got hundreds of tutorials now. So if anything I'm talking about now catches your interest and you want to try it out, if you go to the tutorials, there's probably a tutorial for that. So that's something else we've done. We've done a lot more tutorials. So if you come to the normal enterprise toolkit page, where you define the flows, for example, you see that our nodes have got square. That's one of the upgrades. And also we've reorganized to try and make it a lot simpler to find the nodes you want. So we've divided it into the toolbox nodes, the ones that like do things, and then the connectors. So everything's still here. It just, we've reorganized it to make it a lot simpler, or hopefully easier to find things. So there's also the layout changes that I mentioned. These are for the layouts here. So if you want to, maybe if you've got lots of flows and it's all getting a bit messy, you can decide to show the name beside the icon, so you can get more icons into your screen without them running out of space. Also, we changed if you want to change how your layout goes. So if you want to maybe make it go top to bottom rather than side to side, you can do that. So they've got more options there, but I'm just pushing it back to how I'm used to it, so I don't get confused. There we go. So since the demos are going to center on this flow, I'll just quickly explain it. It's a beloved unit test flow. So you've got your HTTP input node, your HTTP reply node, and in the middle there's a mapping. It's for hot drinks, but I think I'll go more into what it is as I go through the rest of the presentation. So that was just a lightning quick tour of the toolkit and what's available in the toolkit, the changes. So now I'm going to look at one of the other new features, and this is JSON validation. So so as it says here, that in addition to parsing the JSON, which we've always done, we'll now also validate it against a schema. And this can be a draft 4 or OAS version 2 schema. And we can validate it at various points in the flow. Sort of, if it's an input, we can check it on input. If it's something you're sending out, we can check what sending out is valid. And then we can also check it mid-flow if that's most suitable. So if we go back to my flow here, here's my HTTP input, the mapping and the reply node. So here I've got my HTTP input node, and I've said that it's JSON. So we've always been able to say it's JSON, so it can check it's well formed. But here we can also select a message model of the JSON. So previously I've added my JSON schemas to my project, and these have to be named, the files have to be named .json, else it won't do it. And if you've not got the schema tag in there, you also need schema somewhere in the name, just so it knows what it is. So I've got two schemas here, one for my input, which is like it's hot drink order. So if you can see here, we've got, you need to have a type of a string, type of drink is a string, a Boolean of whether with milk or not, and the number of sugars you want. I mean, obviously lots more you could choose, but this is just a simple example. And then we've got the output, which is just a response message, just a string. What else do I need to show you? So that's so on the input node, I've got the input schema set, and then on validation, I wanted to validate the content and value, and in this case, I want it to, if it does find it's invalid, I want it to put out an exception. So I've got all that set. Oh, I haven't showed you about the mapping node. Sorry, there's nothing version 12 about that, but you could see here that when I added the data, it knew it was JSON and it got it out the schema, so it could do this without me having to input things. And all it does is it takes the type of drink, whether from the input message, and concatenates it with a string to say, I hope you like your drink, or something like that. We'll see as we start using it. Sorry, can't remember. So that's how it works. So now want to check it works. Well, this is HTTP input, so I could just curl messages into it. But I'm going to use the flow exerciser, so I can show some new features of the flow exerciser. Oh, I should have said I've got a test. Well, I've got a integration server running here on my just local machine. So here it is up and listening, and it's listening on port listening on port 7612. So I've connected my toolkit to that integration server just so I can do things with it. So for the flow exerciser, oh yeah, I made changes to it. Oh, redeploy. So I'm just redeploying this flow, the whole application, to that integration server, and here it is. You can see it's put the schemas in too. So now I can send messages through it. So we've always been able to check it's valid. Sorry, so here's the flow exerciser. I've just collected to add a new message in the normal way. So I'm going to add a new input message. And if I just call hello, obviously it'll be rejected. By the parser because it's not valid JSON. So that's not new. We've always been able to do that. But what it does is that it can also check that it's now according to the schema. So if I just try to send some valid JSON, it will validate it against that schema, and it says the JSON is, it's found that there's an error, and it says it's not accepting the name because that's not allowed by the schema. I should have mentioned that I didn't allow additional members, so that's showing that it's actually parsed the message and used the schema to validate it against. But if I decide to set a message that does work, I've got my proof sheet there. So now I'm sending in valid JSON and valid for that schema. It will work. And the reply, response is enjoy, or whatever the input drink type was. So my input drink type was I should have showed that, was a coffee, and I wanted milk but no sugar. Yeah. And so the response came back. And you can also, using the flow exerciser, you can see the flow that went in and the flow that went out. But what you can also do now in version 12 is that you can save that. Yeah, you can choose to save this flow. Oh, yes. Preparation already created one. So I can save this flow, the one where I sent in that message and I received another message. And you can save as many flows as you want. And then I've got them to save to the application. So now when I stop, that flow should show here in my application. When you click on it, it opens this new message assembly editor that I mentioned earlier. And so this is showing that I had a message that said I wanted to send a type coffee, milk and sugar, and it's got the whole tree in it. So it's got the environment tree, local environment, exceptions, well, there aren't any exceptions, but it would be. So it stores the whole tree. And similarly, I've got the response message that was sent out that had the response in it. And this is an editor, so you can change it if you want to. So maybe instead of being specific, I could just be general and say, enjoy your drink. And then save that. So that's changed that. But why would I want to do this? Why do I need a message assembly? Oh, sorry, yes, I should have said on the flow exerciser that, oh, sorry, I did say that, didn't I? Oh, for the message assemblies, we've got the message assembly editor, but the messages you don't have to use, you can record messages without having to go use the flow exerciser. You can always just set it on in your server or level, and then you can record all the messages going through. So if you're actually running it, you can you're running that message flow, you can record all the messages going through that message flow, and then they're available to run at another time. But so why are you recording messages? Well, you can use them to unit test the flow. And a new feature we put in at version 12 is to allow you to use these messages to automatically generate test cases. So obviously, the more messages you get, the better the test cases are. So that's why you'd want to do this. So this is the integration testing that I mentioned about in the overview slide. So looking at the integration testing, obviously everybody's, but I don't know, but there seems to be a movement to shift left to test as early as possible. So what we've tried to do is to find a way that we could help with building integration tests and also being able to put them into pipelines. So all of this could maybe run if you check in a change to the project that contains the flow. You could maybe have an automated step in your pipeline to run these integration tests, just to check you've not broken anything. So it's to try and make it easier for testing, but also easier to put into pipelines. Lots of the changes we've made, the changes we've made this release were from RFEs. So I hope if you put in RFE, we managed to address yours. Was a lot of them was to try and address problems people have putting all this stuff into pipelines. So this is one way to do it. You can use it to generate the test cases. You can use the create test case wizard in the toolkit. That's probably the simplest way. But you can also use a command line method that might be better in pipelines. And that's the method I'm going to show now to try and make it clear about all the different steps. But if you just do it in the toolkit, it'll walk you through it. And that's probably a more straightforward way if you don't need to do it. So as it says here, in order for ACE to create you a test case, you need the message assemblies. So these message assemblies that are recorded, and you need a matching pair of an input and an output. So what the test case will do is it'll take the input message, it'll run it through the node, and it'll check the output matches the output that it's got recorded. So that's why you need the matching case. Yeah, so if you've got your integration, if you've got your message assemblies, then you could use this new, this is the first of the IBM Mint messages, administration commands I'm going to mention, the new family of commands. Going forward, I think we'll be creating, instead of MQSI commands, we'll create IBM Mint commands instead. They're slightly different format to try and look a bit more like the Docker commands you do, or Kubernetes commands you do nowadays. So maybe a bit more modern. And also they're not tied to the MQSI that we're not called anymore, to try and make it a bit more, whatever they change our name to, IBM Mint will still apply. So if we look here, I think so. I saved my the message flows, the message assemblies to my project, my GSC JSON project in the toolkit. So there they are on my disk. So that's where they are. So now I can use this IBM Mint generate tests to create the test project for them. Well, as I already said, it creates a test case for every node. So it'll, for my case, not the input node. So we'll only get one test case for this example. But obviously, if you're doing it for real, you could have many more. You'd have a more complicated flow probably, and more messages. But this is just a simple demo. So if you issue the command, oh, sorry, Ran. What you need to do is you need to give it the where the recorded messages are. So that's the directory I just showed you, the my toolkit project. That's where they were saved to, but you can get them from wherever. But this is where mine were. And you also have to, when you run the command, you need to both give it the name of the directory for it to build the test project in, And also you need to give it the fully qualified name of the JUnit class it's going to build you. So I've asked it to build a test project in my use directory desktop GSE 2021 test project. I'm calling it com.ibm.gsc2021.test class. So that's the name of the class. So if I go to this directory, sorry, ran the command, it just went off. So if I go to that directory, you can see that we use Gradle to build it, so it's created these Gradle build files. And you've got the test project descriptor for the Eclipse project. But also we've got the source file, and in there is where the Java is. So if we look, we've got this, it's created this test class.java because that's what I told it to call. And if we look into that, you can see that this is JUnit test. Like I said, there's only one, but if it was a more complex flow and we had more messages, it could be a far more complicated flow. So what it does is it takes the node it's testing. So this will be my mapping node. And then it takes the input message assembly, the one for the input message, the one for the coffee and the milk, but no sugar. And it converts the message assembly into a stream it can use to test the node. Then it actually goes ahead and, on this mapping, it actually runs the message through the mapping node, checks it was called, checked, in this case, it was a success. So the message was successfully processed and came through the output terminal. And then it compares the output message with the, the message in the output message assembly that we recorded. It compares what came out of the mapping node with what it was expecting to get from that message assembly. So this is the matching pair thing. So so it gets the let's see that. So it actually gets what came out of the output, and then it again converts the recorded response message, and then it compares the two. And then if they don't, if there is an exception, and if they match, that's good, the test is passed. So once ACE has generated all these test cases, you can go through and you can add extra test cases, enhance the test cases there are, put extra checking in and such. Up to you what you do with them. And then, so once you're happy with the test cases, then you need to build it. Now, like I said, back. Oh, sorry, at this point also, you could put it back into the toolkit, and then the toolkit can walk you through what to do next. You can do all of this in the toolkit if you choose to. So now I can use Gradle just to build it. I've already installed Gradle. So if I just, from the test project that was built, sorry, pointing at the screen. If I just run Gradle, it'll use these Gradle files. I'm afraid I'm not big on Gradle, but it'll use these to build it for us. So that will compile up the Java for us and do the resources and such. Doesn't take a minute. Okay, so that's now built it. So now if we look and see what's in that directory, you can see the jars being produced. So it's built the jars, compiled it up for us. And also we've got the resources that would be needed. So those are the two. I should have said the flows are stored as XML, and we've given them the message XML file delimiter, so we know what they are. So these are the flows that are needed for the test project to work. Oops. Yeah, so this is, sorry. This is sort of both the test project you built and the project that you could run into Eclipse, into the toolkit. So we've built it, so now we need to get it to run. Now you could package it up using NQSI package, or maybe the new IBM Int package bar command to package it into a bar and deploy it in the normal way. But I need to stop it now. I'm running just a normal integration server in a work directory. So the simplest thing is just to copy this project into the server's run directory. So my server's work directory is GSC JSON. So if I copy that in, so if I copy this directory I'm in now into the run directory of my integration server's work directory, then it should be available to me. So now I could go and run. Oh, you also need to have deployed the project it's testing, but I've already got that from when I was using the flow exerciser. So now my integration server in the run directory has two projects. It has the GSC JSON, the original one, then it has what I've just copied over, this new test project. So that's ready to run. But some more enhancements we made to the integration server is that it'll just run that test project. So you can start it up, it'll run the tests, and then it'll stop again. So you could see that that would quite well go into a pipeline, just start it up, run it, and go and close down again. So just to make sure I get the right way to do it. So the way to do that is, it's gone up again, sorry, I'll show you here. You start up your integration server, you give it the work directory and the parameters you'd normally do, but also you have to give it this test project. And so you give it the name of the test project that you copied into the run or deployed or however you got it there. And then that tells it to just run that. We've also got this new flag for start message flows false. So there could be hundreds of projects in my integration server could know about loads of different flows, but I don't necessarily want all those flows started up. I just want the ones needed to run the test project. So we've added this new flag, start message flows false, and that just says that don't worry about all the other message flows, just the ones, I just want to run the test project and end. So yeah, I've issued that. Oh, it's not available. Oh, in the wrong place. Sorry, try again. So yes, I'll start that up again. Looks better. So you can see that it knew it needed test project and it knew it needed GSC JSON, the original application. And so it starts up and then it starts running the test. Oh, tests have failed. So I don't know if you remember, but when I was showing you the message assembly editor, I changed one of the messages in there. So I had the output from the message flow was meant to be enjoy your coffee, but I changed it to say enjoy your drink. And so this has shown that the test has actually tested the output and it was expecting enjoy your, no, what was in the message assembly was enjoy your drink, the one that I changed. But it was expecting enjoy your coffee because that's what the mapping did. It took the type from the input, put it to the output. So this is why the test has failed. But I just wanted to show you that it does actually test things. So you can see that there was only one test and it failed. And then you can see that the test project completed with failures and you can see that the return code is non-zero. So hopefully this would be something that would be quite straightforward to put into some sort of like pipeline, you know, PR checking pipeline or something, to be able to quickly run up a integration server just to run your test project and stop again and check that worked. So that could be a good checkpoint for making changes to flows and things. So that was a, oh, sorry, I've gone through all this. So that was a look at some of the, there's a lot more to the integration testing that we've done than I've shown here. This is just a quick demonstration, but if there's links at the end, or you look it up on the, you can get to it from the toolkit link I showed you, the what's new. That's got more information on this. So as I already said, we've introduced some new IBM Int commands, and these are a new family of commands. I already showed the IBM Int message one, but we've done a whole family of them. So here you can see that we've got the generate tests, but we've also got, you can package, so that's creating bar. Well, I'll go through some of them in a minute, but you can also use them to start and stop servers and start and stop nodes, or create and start and delete servers and nodes. This is just this is for node managed servers, not standalone integration servers. And again, it's just to try and make it easier for new users to have a maybe you know, a syntax for a command they're used to, rather than having to know it's MQSI create execution group to start a server. So it's all trying to simplify things. That's why we've done these commands here. But the build commands, we're trying to make it easier for the whole source to server thing. So you know, if you've got your message flow detail project in GitHub and you want to be able to get it deployed, just an easier way to take the information out and do it in a pipeline, rather than having to do and also to try not to have the toolkit runtime. So you can just literally have the product runtime and do what you want, just to make things more lightweight and easier to do in containers, just to simplify things. So yes, IBM Int, we had a lot of discussion about what to call it. Some people are calling it IB Mint, but IBM Int for IBM integration. Hopefully we won't need to change that. So yeah, I've already talked about the generate tests. You can also generate message indexes to see what message assemblies you've got in a directory. So we look at package. So instead of yes, sorry. So the IBM package command is to package resources into a bar file if you're using bar files. You can either repackage an existing bar file, or you can package from a work directory. And if you're going from a work directory, you can say which project or projects you actually want to go into the bar. So it's similar to MQSI package, but what this IBM package can do is it can compile your Java and compile your message sets for you if you want it to. You can tell it not to with options. So there's no need for MQSI create bar or any of the toolkit tooling. This is all done in the ACE runtime. So that's the advantage of IBM Int package. So that's if you want to package it into a bar. And then if you want to compile your message set separately, we've also got the IBM Int compile message set command. Again, that's in the runtime. You don't need a toolkit. And then if you want to deploy it to your integration server, either a standalone integration server or a node managed integration server, you can now, instead of MQSI deploy, you can use IBM Int deploy. You can use this not just to deploy bar files, but you can also use it to deploy straight from a work directory. And again, if you are going straight from a work from your toolkit or the Eclipse project directory. So if you're choosing to do that, you can specify which projects to deploy. So now there's no need for a bar file if that's not working for you. I know lots of people have said bar files make it hard for the scanning. They can't scan bar files. So if they've got it in you know, GitHub or wherever, the scanning tools don't work. So this way, you don't need a bar file if you don't want one. You can go straight from, you know, you can check out if it is in Git, sorry, I'll just keep using Git as an example because that's what we use. If it is in Git, you can check it out from Git. You can run the command and you put it straight into the integration service work directory, the run directory as I did, without needing to worry about you without having to worry about bar files and checking in bar files and things. And there's still the same options with property overrides and keywords and such as there were with the MQSI command. I don't know if I said already, these aren't to replace the MQSI commands. They've not been deprecated. There's no plans there. These are just in addition to try and simplify things for new people. Though I do realise now there's even more options than there were. But hopefully these are a better syntax and an easier way to understand. We've got the help. Spent a lot of time trying to get the help right and actually helpful for these commands. So oh, that didn't work. You've got help for everything, and hopefully it just gives you a bit more. It's helpful for the whole family of IBM administration commands. So that's a quick look at some of the new IBM Int commands. Now I'm going to have a very quick look at a couple of the API enhancements, REST API enhancements we made. Just to say, oh, sorry, what happened? Sorry, don't know what happened there. Okay, so just to call out two of the enhancements we made. We've now got support for OpenAPI specification 3.0. So we always had Swagger, but now Swagger has become OpenAPI. So it's just the next version. So you can create your REST APIs from scratch. You can import existing ones and you can edit them. So just like Swagger, but now we can do OpenAPI. Then also, if you use API Connect to host your APIs, publish your APIs, we've now added support, mod release 2, provided support for API Connect 10. So you can now use API Connect 10 to publish your APIs and look after them. That's just a very quick look at those. So one of the biggest things we released in mod release 2, like our first fix pack, was business transaction monitoring. Now this might look very familiar to people who are, the concepts will be familiar to people who are running version 10. But in case you aren't familiar, I'll just quickly go over it here. I'm conscious that time's ticking by. So what is a business transaction? Well, business transaction monitoring is to try and allow maybe more business people rather than sysprogs to monitor the business transactions that go through the message flows. So if you think of a business transaction as maybe getting a mortgage quote, or I like to think of buying a pair of shoes on the internet. However, a business level transaction that a business person would be interested in. So if I ordered the shoes, I placed my order, it maybe did a bit of a stock check, and I got the confirmation that, yeah, the shoes are on the way. Then it made the shoes or did whatever it did, and then dispatched the shoes. And then having dispatched, the shoes either got delivered, didn't get delivered, or they got delivered fine. So those are, from a business point of view, probably the steps in getting me my shoes. Whereas at an implementation level, actually, you can see here that business level steps were implemented by several different message flows. Oh, I should say now that these message flows can be running on different integration servers, or all the same integration server, but they can be running on separate integration servers, so long as they're on the same integration node. They're all managed by the same integration node. And the way, so this is the way to map your, the implementation of how things work with the business level of what they're actually doing for the business. So, and it does this by using the monitoring events. So having a look at the monitoring events, when you define your nodes, you can define that they, when you define your node, one of the things you can do is you can define monitoring events. And you can say what sort of a monitoring event it is, all that sort of a thing. And you can also, so that's what I mean by the monitoring events. And each event needs to have a correlation ID. And for the business, you need to, I should have said, you need to set up business transaction monitoring on your node, set the databases and things up, and then you have to set it on for your integration servers. Sorry, I should have said that before. So once you've done that, for your each flow that you want to participate, you need to create these monitoring events. And the monitoring events, the way that they're grouped together, so you can tell that this is one business transaction, is through the is through using the global correlation ID, and the global transaction correlator ID thing. You set that at the beginning, and then that flows through with your business transaction or your flows. So you can see there's two separate flows here, possibly on different integration servers, but we send that along with the processing, and then you can use that to track what's happening. And we can either automatically generate one at the beginning, or you can take it out of the message that kicked all of this off itself. It's whatever works best. And then that's what's used to correlate that. All the other ones will just take it from the parent until it comes out of the end. So you've got your flows, and you're emitting monitoring events. Not every event has to be a business transaction event. In fact, that might be quite a performance hit. So you only want the ones that make sense for the business, the ones that they want to know about, the ones up here. Okay, so once your flow is emitting with monitoring events, you need to define those as to be part of a business transaction definition. So then the business knows what makes up that actual transaction, the receiving the request and the confirmation and all that I showed before. So you do that using the web user interface. So you can do that, and then you've configured it, and then it knows that this business transaction is actually, if you think of the slide before, made up of those points, and you can actually track what happened. And you can define them as, you can have different types. So you have, everything needs a start and a stop. You can have your failure ones as well, but you can also have progress ones. So you can sort of track how it's going through the system. It's not starting, it's not stopping, nothing's going wrong. This is just letting you know the progress of the transaction. So once you've done this, you've deployed it, everything's working, it's being configured, then you can use the web user interface to actually manage your, see what's going on. So you use the business transactions, or the last one was the configure. Here you just go to monitor, so you can see your business transactions, and you can see which, if you've got more than one, you'd choose the one you wanted to see, and it shows you a snapshot of what transactions are going on, the ones you've got recorded. So you can see in this example how many are in progress, how many you've completed, how many are inconsistent. Now inconsistent is just for whatever reason you've got an in progress event, received an in progress event for one that's already stopped. You've already had your stop event for, so something's gone wrong with the processing. So luckily that's not happened here. And then how many have failed, so how many have admitted failure events, maybe something went wrong with the shipping. So you can get a sort of a high level view of all of them. And then if you want to drill down, it'll list all the individual transactions by the ID that you chose. So, oh yes, this gives you information of what happened to the transaction, the times, the durations. And then if you want to know about one in particular, you can drill down to it. And this will give you more information about all the different business, the business level of the monitoring events, not the ACE level of the monitoring events. They'll give you more information on what happened as it went through the system, so you can see what time things happened. And if this had failed or this was stalled, you can see where it got up to. So this would hopefully let you go in, see what was going wrong and fix it at a business level without having to get sysprogs involved and such. So that was a very quick look at business transaction monitoring. Obviously, there's more in the documentation and how to set it up and stuff. But I wanted to get on to have time to talk about the Z specific news, this being a Z conference. So I don't know if you saw, if you've seen, or maybe last year we said about it, but we're planning to put out, because we've never got ACE running natively, so no version 11 or 12 runs natively on ZOS yet, which I know has been an issue. So for people who maybe aren't ready to move to version 11 or 12, we're putting out a version 10.1. This is for ZOS only, so it won't be on other platforms. Well, we'll use Toolkit, but it's for ZOS, the runtime. And this will contain, well, like it says here, so we're updating all the prereqs and the things we ship with it to be supported, better versions. And this should extend your support with the 5+3 to for version 10 to 2030. So if you're happy with IIB, you don't need the new features available in ACE. It should be much more straightforward to migrate to version 10.1 than to migrate to version 11. So you can carry on using it, yeah, for another 9 years, would that be? But it is possible to run ACE on ZOS. But you need to run it as a Docker container inside ZCX Docker container extensions. So I'm going to come on to that in a minute. So you've been able to, well, you've been able to do it for ages, but we've supported it since version 11, Fixpack 8. And it just runs like any other, it's the Z Linux runtime. It runs like any other server running an integration server in a container would run. So you don't need anything special. You can just run it like you would if you were running it on Ubuntu or something, but you're just choosing to run it on ZCX. But we know that for a lot of customers, they've got automation and processes that expect to be able to submit JCL or run started tasks. And automation likes to get the bit messages from maybe the console log or from yes, the task DD cards and such. So moving to version 11 would be quite disruptive. So what we've tried to do is we've tried to provide a way to make it less disruptive. So you can still use JCL and console commands to control your integration servers and your message flows, but you're actually running version 11. Oh, but first I need to tell you about ZCX, sorry. Well, why would you want to do this first of all? Well, you can run version 11, but if you're already running ACE but not on ZOS, why would you want to move to ZOS? I know it's been quite an expensive option in the past. Well, if you're running in ZCX, everything's offloadable. Well, it's all zip eligible. So if you've got capacity on your zips, you can run it all in the zips, so you don't need to worry. So you can run your message flows on ZOS without the cost that was often found when running on ZOS, but you still get the ZOS qualities of service. And so, again, you can run your message flows with your data, which is always a good thing without having stuff flipping around the network. And also, if you're already running IIB on ZOS, presumably the ZOS sysprogs are the experts in running your brokers and maintaining them and looking after the work. So if you run it in ZCX rather than maybe on Linux or something, you can keep them, as they'll be the people still running it, so they know what they're doing already. So you can keep their knowledge, but you can also run version 11 rather than version 10 because it's the same engine, same processing. It's just you don't need a node, but you can have a node if you want to. Just that doesn't fit with the container architecture. So yeah, you might choose if you're already running IIB. If there's some message flows which are quite MIP heavy, you might choose just to move those into integration servers running in ZCX. And you might want to keep other flows running in version 10, maybe do a hybrid model, whatever works for the business. So in case you're not familiar with ZCX, I'm just going to quickly go through it. I've got 10 minutes left. So ZCX is a way to run Docker on ZOS itself. So not on ZLinux, you don't need any specialty engines. This is running on ZOS proper. It runs in just as a normal address space, start a task on ZOS proper. What was I going to say? Oh, it needs to be a Z14. You need at least a Z14. And you need to be running at least ZOS 2.4 for this. So why would you want to do this? Well, it means you can run Docker containers, so you get all the flexibility of Docker, or the you can take all the existing ZOS, all the existing open source Docker stuff, so you can run etcd and all the good open source stuff that you get that's available, but you can run it on ZOS. So with all the ZOS, like, you know, doesn't fall over, works fast, processes lots, you can run that, but you're still running Docker and the Docker ecosystem. I've got a link here for more information. So yes, the idea behind ZCX was so that you could run the open source stuff on your ZOS. So here I've got etcd, because where better to run your etcd server than on ZOS and keep it running. That'd be great. But what Wayne thought was, well, if you can run, well, version 11 of ACE, the whole changes were made so you could run ACE in a containerized environment. You didn't need the node management anymore. So Wayne had the great idea of, well, why don't we run ACE in ZCX? So it's a bit topsy-turvy that you're running what was a ZOS product in ZCX now, but it's a way to get ACE version 11 and going forward 12 running on your mainframe. So that's the idea he had. So this is all you need to do. You don't need to do any of the bits I'm about to describe and show. This is just if you just want to manage it, like Docker Swarm's available. There's a future direction that they'll be trying to get Kubernetes and OpenShift. So this you don't need to use what I'm about to describe. It just works if you use the ZLinux runtime. But if you need to use, like for your automation systems or whatever, JCL or started tasks and things, that's what I'm going to describe now. But just to make it clear, you don't have to, it just works. And you can just treat it like any other Docker container running on any other platform. But if you do need to use JCL, what we've supplied, you need to install, is ways to either use JCL. Sorry, I keep talking about this, don't I? So what you get when you get what we've produced is you get some JCL, sample JCL, and some scripts, Unix System Services scripts. And what we've provided is JCL to run these scripts, and these scripts interact with the ZCX box, and they interact with the Docker container. Well, they can start it, stop it, whatever, and it's the Docker container that runs your ACE. So you don't need to SSH onto a ZCX box or do anything Unixy. You can just use JCL, straightforward JCL that your automation systems can presumably are using at the moment to do what you need to do. And there's no need to change those automation systems at all or straight away, whatever works. So if we have a look. Oh, sorry, that's what's my password? Sorry, that was connected. We ship quite a lot of sample JCL. So I don't know how much you know about the Docker world, but in Docker, first of all, you build an image, and the image is like the template. So you take the ZLinux runtime ACE code, and you build that into an image. And then having built the image, you can then run that image, and the container that runs that's what's running the image. So well, taking that as a template and running. So first, before you can run a container, you have to build an image first. So we've got JCL here that'll allow you to build an image, or if you've already got your image built, it'll allow you to load it. If you saved it as a tar, it'll allow you to load it from the image archive onto your ZCX system. We provide the explanation of how to do this. So you just need to make sure that you've got the bits in the right place. So you've got the executables and any bars you want in there, and any YAML for controlling this. It's standalone integration servers. So any YAML you want to for the server.conf.yaml. And then you just submit this. Oh, they need to be on Unix system services. So you just submit this. It'll go away and it'll build your image, and it'll put it onto the it'll build it on the ZCX box. I'm not doing that here because that can take quite a long time, because our box is on quite a heavily used system. So, but you just literally would set, I haven't explained the environment variables, have I? All the JCL is controlled by an environmental variables. So these are a bit like your BipEms from version 10, if you're familiar with version 10. So these are just simply in a flat file. Oh, sorry, no, don't get that. These are in, well, it's std.m, so it could be, it could just be Unix system services file. Or in my case, I've got them in, it could just be a data set, or I've got mine in a data set, lots of separate ones. So these contain the environment variables that these scripts are expecting to tell them how to interact with ZCX. So if we look, they all need to have they need to have information on how to connect. Oh, you need to have these set off. So I'll just put them in there so I don't forget. So they interact with the ZCX. So you've got the address of the ZCX server and its port, and then the user ID and the SSH key that you're using to connect in. So you don't need to worry about passwords all the time. So this is the SSH key for the ZCX. So you have to define user IDs as separate on ZCX. They're not linked to your RAC F1. So you need to define a user ID on ZCX and set up the SSH key for it. And we've got instructions on how to do this in our documentation. And then in the, as I showed you, in the end file you're going to use in the JCL, you have to tell it where the key is and the user ID that the key is for. Then whoever submits the JCL needs access to that key, so they can then they can use it to access ZCX, and that's what happens. The script uses that to actually run the commands. So that's what you need. And then if you were going to build it, here we go. If you're going to build it, you need to say where you've downloaded the ZLinux runtime to. So you need to get that onto Unix system services, and then you need to tell it the name of the package. So you know what the executable is in here. And then again, if you need bars or YAML, you just put them in here, and then you submit the JCL. So you put the correct, you can have a concatenation of several here, or just one, however it works for you. And then you just literally submit this, and it'll go off, it'll build the image for you, and it'll tell you if it worked or not. And the image it builds, you control it again with end files. So you give it the name of the image and the tag, and that tells you what it's called. Oh, I'm running out of time, sorry. So that's how you build it, and you use the same sort of a thing for how you'd run it. So sorry, I'll just quickly show. Sorry. Yeah. More JCL here. This is to actually run it, run the integration server. So you need to give it the location of the scripts that you installed, the Unix System Services scripts. You point it to an M file that has the appropriate credentials and the appropriate information. It's all documented what you need, and then yeah, you can run it. Sorry, I was going to demo this, but I think I've run out of time. So yes, that's how it works. You've got your environment files that give it information like the name of the image, the tag of the image, all the information you need to run it. Then you just submit JCL that runs Unix System Services script that use the configured SSH key to access the ZCX box. And then the ZCX box then runs the appropriate Docker commands, and they run build your image, start and stop the container containing your integration server, or you can use there's this command one, which you can use to issue commands on if you want to run commands on your integration server. But it's just a standard integration server. You can connect the toolkit, you can use the REST interface, web UI, however you normally interact with an integration server. So that's if you're happy to run JCL. Oh, and when the JCL runs, the bit messages that would come out of the integration server, they're written to the to one of the DD cards, so you've got access to the bit messages if your automation needs that. But some other customers I spoke to, and thank you if you were one of the customers I spoke to, they said what they needed is they need to be able to use console commands to run this. So we've also provided a way where you can run a console listener task. So there's a quite a straightforward C++ program that you can run, and this we ship sample JCL. You just define that started task in normal way, and this uses the same environment variables, plus something telling you where the scripts are, to run the same Unix System Services scripts under the covers. But instead of submitting JCL, you can just issue console commands. So I'll just quickly show that. So I've got mine set up as Ali21. So I just start it in the normal way. Here it is starting up, and you can see that this is starting up the way I've got it configured. As I've told it, I wanted it to start an integration server called PH40550, which incidentally is the API number for the mod release 2. So it's starting that up. Oh, ignore these BPX. I've just not got security set up on this system quite right. So if you got your security set up, you wouldn't have that. So you just get your bit messages and well, the bit messages you'd expect for an integration server. So hopefully you wouldn't have to worry too much about changing automation systems if they're expecting bit messages. And these, as well as being in the because for the JCL it was in the job log, but here it's also on the console. So if that's what your automation expects, it's available here for it too. And also you can control it using console commands. So if you need to, you've got automation for putting in commands, you can do it there and then. And this goes to the job log, so you can see what happens. So again, it's all just trying to make it easier to migrate to version 11 without having to change all your processes at once. and then you can stop it. You can check for your stopping messages, so your automation can know it's stopping. So we're just trying to make it easier to migrate from version 10 to version 11, but to be able to reuse existing automation systems and whatever standards you have to stick with. So that's why we've done that. But like I say, if you don't need to worry about that, you can just run it like any other Docker container running on any other platform. So I've not got much time, but the major enhancements that we made to the ZCX one for Modpack 2 is that it's been updated so you can run IBM Int and ID Text like you couldn't before, the newer features that came out. There's been various bug fixes, but the big changes, I know a few people have been having trouble with Bash and the right version of Bash on Unix system services to get it working. Well, I've got rid of the Bash dependency now, so you don't need Bash, you can just run it in the normal shell. So that's the biggest change I made for version 12. Okay, sorry, a bit rushed at the end there, ran out of time. Any questions or anything I rushed over and wasn't clear about, please email me. Here's my email address. There's links here for frequently asked questions, and oh yes, as well as tutorials, there's a huge stock of YouTube playlists for all of what I've described. So you can listen to those on YouTube as well. But thank you very much for your time, and please submit your feedback. Thank you. Bye.